What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel. And if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about a Void Warlock build that is involving the Necrotic Grips as well as that Osteo Striga. Now I know that we put out a Strand video similar to this not long ago, but I got a lot of requests asking for a video that doesn't revolve around Strand for the Necrotic Grips this season. So this is what we came out with, giving us basically infinite Devour, wiping out enemies with that Necrotic Grip burn and having our abilities up almost constantly as well. So as always, we're starting out with our abilities, aspects, and fragments. Going with the Cataclysmic Nova Bomb right here. Seeks and is that slow tracking one that shatters into these smaller orbs. Just think this is better for DPS and easier to control than the Vortex version. Now for abilities, I'm going with our Healing Rift because of one of our aspects that we have going on. For our jump, you can really use whatever you want, and then melee, we're going with Pocket Singularity and Grenade, Vortex Grenade. This is the best in PvE for me, unless you're using something that gives buffs to the other grenades. Now to start out for this build, why I'm using that Healing Rift, we have that Child of the Old Gods. Cast your Rift to create a Void Soul. When you damage a target with a weapon, that Void Soul flies to it and drains their energy, doing damage and weakening them so they take more damage and they move more slowly. Now on top of that, when the target is being drained, we get grenade and melee energy if we're running that Healing Rift, which is why I'm running the Healing Rift, so we can have our grenade and melee back consistently, especially since we're using this build with Necrotic Grips. Next aspect we got right here is Feed the Void, which is giving us that infinite Devour, so defeating targets with our Void abilities activates Devour. While Devour is active, Final Blows restore health and extend Devour, so with this, those Necrotic Grips, all of that poison damage is going to give us Devour and continuously proc it once it is initially procced. Plus, with that other aspect we have with Child of the Old Gods, we're going to get back our melee as well as our grenade super fast when we're doing that damage with our little Void Soul, weakening enemies. So that Devour basically never leaves, and we have our abilities up almost constantly as well. Now to back all of that up for even more healing with us, we are going with Echo of Leeching. So melee Final Blows start that health regen for us and our nearby allies. That is partially why we have this. Gives us 10 resilience as well. And when we don't have Devour procced, like at the beginning initial part of a fight, we can use this to get our health back if we need it. Plus we can use that just in general for that spread of Necrotic Grips. Pairs with this very, very well. Next on the list, we're using Echo of Persistence, so that Devour has increased duration. Definitely, like I said, we have it for 15 seconds, and with this build, we basically never lose that, especially with that extra burst of damage that we're getting from Osteo pairing with Necrotic Grips, and just in general, those melee defeats giving us poison. It is so easy when there is a lot of adds to continuously have health and never lose that Devour. Next right here we have that Echo of Remnants, so our Void Grenade and Vortex Grenade has an increased duration, giving us just more ability to defeat, do damage, whatever it may be, buffing that grenade just a little bit. And last but certainly not least, another way we're going to get Devour is with the Echo of Starvation. So picking up Orbs of Power or Void Breaches grant us Devour on top of our ability defeats. And this is just helping us keep that up at all times. And if there is some harder content where we're not getting those defeats constantly, picking up Orbs of Power is a great way to supplement. But in general, this is still very easy to get Devour to proc with just our abilities. Now, quickly going through our weapons right here, we're using that Osteo Striga, which pairs perfectly with Necrotic Grips, keeping that Devour proc and creating a bunch of different orbs for us with those poison defeats. Now, on top of that, we're going to be using the Harsh Language with Wellspring and Repulsor Brace. So Wellspring is going to give us our abilities back when we get those defeats, and then Repulsor Brace is going to give us an overshield because we're going to have volatile rounds on this, so defeating those void weakened targets. Also, with our ability ability and our aspect there with Child of the Old Gods also works for this, so Void Overshield for that survivability. And finally right here, Reconstruction on this commemoration. Still only one away from crafting it, definitely going to get it this week with Deepstone, but this thing very good with those volatile rounds, and reconstruction having 130 in the magazine is absolutely gnarly. Now, moving on to our artifact right here, we're going to be using Overload SMG for that Osteostriga. Next off, we're going to be using that Volatile Flow, so all those orbs of power that we're picking up, granting us volatility, as well as Devour. We're going to be using Shatter Orbs as well, so all of those Void target defeats that we get, and breaking the shield, we're going to get extra Orbs of Power. Now, we're also using Bricks from Beyond, so defeating powerful combatants with Void weapons has a chance to generate ammo for us and our teammates, making this a nice support build as well, since we're using those double Void weapons on top of Osteo. And last but not least, Void Weapon Channeling. You gain a temporary bonus Void Weapon damage after defeating target with a Void weapon while at least one of our abilities are charged. And like I said earlier, we're going to have our abilities up basically constantly with this build, so those Void weapons are going to get a nice little boost to damage because of this artifact perk. Now, when we move on to our armor mods right here, we're going to have Kinetic and Void Siphon, so all of our weapons are going to have that opportunity to grant us orbs of power on those rapid defeats. On top of that, we're having Heavy Ammo Finder, since we are usually using Osteo with this build on the most part, giving us the chance to have FV ammo everywhere for us, so we can have that reconstruction and commemoration proc at all times. Now right here showing y'all why this build was made for that Necrotic Grips in the Void category. We got Grasp of the Devourer. Damaging combatant poisons them, dealing increased damage over time. Defeating the combatant that is poisoned spreads the condition, why it pairs perfect with Osteostriga and this Devour build inside of Void. It also provides benefit to airborne effectiveness for weapons of sorrow, which Osteostriga is. Now, for our mods right here, we're going to be using melee kickstarter as well as momentum transfer. So when we cause damage with our grenades, we're going to get our melee back faster. So that's why we have 2 of them, and our grenade comes back quickly, and we have it last longer, so we're able to get our melee back super fast. On top of that, when we have that armor charge, when we use our melee ability, we're going to get a nice chunk of it back when we do have that armor charge up. Now, making this build Void specific again, we got that Void damage resistant and Void reserves, so both of our Void weapons have a little bit more ammo, and that Void damage resistance, I feel like a lot of things we go through are Void damage, just like Spire of the Watcher, and we have charged up so we can have that armor charge, have an extra little bit of carry, so we get more grenade energy back via melee kickstarter. Moving on to our boots right here, a set of Artifice gear. We got that extra discipline to crank us up to 71, as well as Harmonic Scavenger. So when we do pick up those bricks for our special as well as our heavy, we're going to get a little bit of extra of that ammo. And then we're also going to have Innervation double on this. So when we pick up those orbs of power, we're going to get our grenade back a little bit faster, allowing us to have up our abilities at all times, just like I've been saying. Now, last but certainly not least, since we're going to have our class ability very often, we're going to be using Outreach and Bomber and Reaper. Outreach gives us our melee cooldown when using our class ability, Bomber gives us our grenade cooldown when using our class ability, and Reaper, our next weapon, Final Blow, creates orbs of power after we cast our Rift, so this allows us to create more orbs of power, giving us our grenade back when we pick it up, giving us Devour as well as those volatile rounds, and then when we cast down our Rift, we got Child of the Old Gods as well as Outreach and Bomber, so that allows for that continuous abilities being up and procced, being able to spread that curse and poison around with our melee as well as our Osteostriga, pairing that with Necrotic Grips, and we're weakening enemies on top of that with our Child of the Old Gods and getting our class ability back because of that. So this build very hard to get defeated in because of that constant Devour being up, and we're creating a bunch of orbs of power and heavy ammo for ourselves as well as our teammates based on our artifact mods as well as our armor mods, and even we have our fragments that on our melee defeat we're giving ourselves health as well as our fellow guardians. So this build very, very effective for Necrotic Grips. Definitely one of the best arms for PvE when we're taking it into that endgame content or just for fun in general. Ad clear with these is absolutely insane, and with how we have this built out, we're always going to have Devour and our abilities up. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this different variation of a necrotic build, since we have so many that have been strand this season. Like I said, got a lot of questions about a build without strand and necrotic grips, so that's why we went with this Devour build and Void Warlock. So thank you guys again for that crazy support. I truly appreciate it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.